Hey guys, if I could just take a moment of your time. I normally reserve my begging for likes, shares, and subscribes at the end of the video, but I wanted to let you know what's up. Beginning on March 1st, my expenses are going to go up considerably, including more than a 25% increase to my rent, which means one of two things. Either I find a lot more success in these videos really quickly, or I get one of those real jobs. And if I get a real job, videos will have to be scaled back. I just won't have the time. I might even have to turn the Goosebumps monthly into a Goosebumps every other monthly. If I'm being honest, I'm not exceptionally hopeful, but I would appreciate it, if you weren't already, if you could like my videos. That makes them easier to find in YouTube searches. If you could share my videos, because word of mouth is the best form of advertising, and if you could subscribe to stay up to date with my content. And if you really like what I produce, perhaps consider contributing to my Patreon. Even $1 per video is a major step in finding the financial stability I need to focus on this channel full time. But even if you can't, I am still very grateful for the support you've already given me just by watching. And with that, let's get on with this spook show. Man, summer camps get a bad rep in media, don't they? You so rarely see any films, books, or TV shows that take place at summer camps where things go the way they're supposed to. I've actually seen more adult media take place in children's summer camps than actual children's media. Teenage camp counselors smoking pot, having sex, ignoring their duties, either resulting in a raunchy R-rated comedy or a gruesome slasher horror film. But even in children's media, summer camps are dens of chaos. Probably the most common, straightforward summer camp movie I've seen is The Parent Trap, and that still involves a long-lost twin sister plot. And I can see why that is. It's a very unique environment. A place where the youth outnumber the adults 10, 50, 100 to 1. A place usually isolated from the rest of the world, a place where city dwellers are forced to exist with nature for weeks on end, a place that promotes mandatory fun no matter how much in the mood you're in for it, a micronation where stability is only maintained if its citizens, the campers, and its government, the staff, agree to follow rules that are hard to enforce. It should come to no surprise that R.L. Stine used the summer camp as a setting for multiple Goosebumps books, and it'll be interesting to see how he iterated on the concept over time. Today we start with his first attempt. Welcome to Camp Nightmare. The book opens with a bus full of kids on their way to Camp Nightmoon. Our protagonist is Billy, a kinda nondescript kid. All we really learn about his life is that his parents are scientists who travel to exotic places. He's the one normal kid in a bus full of weirdos. There's Mike, a short, meek, chubby kid with spiked up hair. There's Jay, a braggy, muscular redhead. And then there's Colin. Oh, Colin. Colin wears silver sunglasses and a red bandana. As you do in the 90s. I think he might be Kid Vid's little brother. There's also a handful of girls going to a separate girls-only Camp Nightmoon, including Dawn and Dory. There's some fooling around, some roughhousing, and then suddenly, oh no, the bus driver! Oh! Several loud gasps filled the small bus as we saw the driver's face. His head was enormous and pink, topped with a mop of wild, bright blue hair that stood straight up. He had long, pointed ears. His huge red eyeballs bulged out from dark sockets, bouncing in front of his snout-like nose. Sharp white fangs drooped from his gaping mouth. A green liquid oozed over his heavy black lips. Okay, so best I can pin it, the bus driver turned into Justin and Griffin McElroy's attempts to recreate Hades from Disney's Hercules in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion's character creator for an episode of Monster Factory. Just like Hades. Of course, the bus driver isn't actually a monster, it's just a mask, and he's goofing off with the kids because reasons, mandatory Goosebumps fake-out scares. However, his fun-loving attitude is very short-lived. He stops the bus in front of a concrete platform, tells all the kids to get out, dumps all their luggage, and leaves them stranded in the middle of the wilderness alone. That's bad enough, but then what should show up but the Care Bear cousins after 2 years on crack? The cries grew louder, closer. shrill warnings. And then, staring into the distance beyond the platform, I saw them. Small, dark creatures, keeping low, rolling rapidly along the flat ground, tossing their heads back and uttering excited shrieks as they came towards us. The creatures stopped a few yards from the concrete platform and raised themselves up menacingly on their hind feet. Huddled between Mike and Jay, I could see them clearly now. They were wolves or wildcats of some sort. Standing upright, they were nearly 3 feet tall. They had slender, almost scrawny bodies, covered with spotty red-brown fur. Their paws had long, silvery nails growing out of them. Their heads were nearly as slender as their bodies. Tiny red weasel eyes stared hungrily at us. Oh, it's just the Children of the Corn school performance of cats. These fun-sized werewolves terrorize the kids for a bit. They seem to threaten real violence, but are scared away by gunshots. Enter Uncle Al, head of Camp Nightmoon, holding a rifle. Is this the first time a gun has shown up in Goosebumps? Uncle Al has brought a second bus to take the kids the rest of the way to the camp, and the tiny wolf creatures, well, they're never brought up again. Not even at the ending. We'll get back to that. The girls are dropped off at their camp, and the boys brought to theirs. Pretty stock standard summer camp stuff. Cabins, a mess hall, community campfire, a river, trees. Billy, Mike, Jay, and Colin all end up in cabin 4 with their teenage counselor, Larry. Larry is largely dismissive of the kids, not paying much attention to them. Things seem to be settling down, but OMG, there's a couple of snakes in Mike's bed. And Mike's been bit on the hand. At this early point, you expect this to be another Goosebumps fake-out scare, but nope. I mean, yes, but we'll get to that. But no! Real snakes! Real snake bite, complete with blood and swelling. Billy leads a charge in wrapping the snakes up in a sheet and getting them out of the cabin, then tries to get help from Mike. But there doesn't seem to be a nurse at Camp Nightmoon. No real first aid supplies except bandages. This place is not set up for actual medical emergencies. That's a flag so red even my colorblind ass can see it. Mike's hand gets bandaged up, and we have our first camp dinner, where Uncle Al lays out the rules. First, the normal stuff. Lights out at 9, no going to the girls' camp, and you have to write to your parents every day. Also, there are bears in the woods, and they will probably kill you. Also, stay away from the forbidden bunk, a rundown cabin at the edge of the camp. No one will say why it's forbidden, which of course means all the campers want to see it for themselves. Of course, that's a good way to get caught by Saber. What Saber? No one is talking, but word is, it's worse than any bear. Or mini werewolf. Hey, are we going to talk about the mini werewolves? No? Because the mini werewolf... Okay. The next day brings camp activities. Billy and his cabin mates join a game of scratch ball, which is basically baseball if you can't afford a stick. The person in the batter position throws the ball himself and tries to run the bases without getting tagged. It starts off fun, but Mike has to sit it out because of his hand, and Colin and Larry get in a fight, resulting in Larry beating Colin in the head with the ball. Hard. Colin will later be complaining about double vision, and I think he might have some internal bleeding. He's basically dead man walking. Larry, pretending it was an accident, takes Colin away, and poor Mike and his swollen snake-bit arm follows. And that's the last we see of Mike. He doesn't show up for dinner that evening, his stuff is gone from the cabin, and none of the camp counselors even seem to acknowledge that Mike ever existed. Billy is very unnerved, but what can he do about this? He has no power to demand and receive information. The next major camping event is a night out in tents. Not hiking to a fun spot in the woods to set up tents. Nah, they're just sleeping in tents about 50 yards away from the cabins. Jay and another kid, Roger, think this is a good opportunity to check out the forbidden bunk, but Billy doesn't think they should. Instead, he leads the still heavily concussed Colin back to the bunks. Screw this sleeping on the ground crap. Their night is interrupted by a horrendous scream and Jay running back to cabin 4. He ran up to me, still bent forward, his face twisted in horror, his eyes wide and unblinking. His bushy hair appeared to stand straight up. It got Roger, he moaned, his chest heaving as he struggled to straighten up. What did? I demanded. What was it? Colin asked right behind me. I don't know, Jay stammered, shutting his eyes tight. It tore Roger to pieces. After reading about 15 Goosebumps books, I've come to expect these gotcha moments, the times where the kids are playing mean tricks on each other to inflate the book's scares. Outside that opening thing with the bus driver, that never comes. Roger doesn't pop in and go, "You should have seen the look on your faces." Instead, Billy, Colin, and Jay stay up the whole night, horrified of every shadow, for any shadow could be that monster that Jay clearly saw dismantle a boy. For the first time since Welcome to Dead House, I said to myself, wait, is this book really going there? The sun rises and there's no sign of Roger, or what might have, murdered him. When approached, Larry says there never was a Roger. Next, there's swimming, but before he can participate, Billy is pulled aside by Dawn and Dory, the girls from the bus. They say they swum over from the girls' camp, where a lot of similar weird stuff is going on. Kids are disappearing, there's threats of monsters, it's not looking good. Billy confirms the same thing is happening to the boys' camp, and the three start formulating a plan of escape, and agree to meet in a few days. Well, this is enough to push Billy over the line. It's time to get a hold of his parents. He goes to the one known payphone in the area, only to discover that it's fake. Okay, well, mail it is. He writes his parents a letter, but when he deposits it, he discovers that none of the letters written in the days prior have been mailed out. They're all in a bag. And no letters have come in, even though Billy's parents insisted that they be writing every day. Camp Nightmoon is completely cut off from the rest of the world. Kids continue to disappear. Colin and Jay are assigned a special hike just for the two of them, and they never return. Two new kids, Tommy and Chris, have taken up their spots in the cabin, saying they're late arrivals. Mike's bed is still empty. Before Billy can even come to grasp with this, Larry piles all of them into a canoe and takes them down the river. It's a dark, gray day. The water is black. Someone's gonna die. It is a bit surprising that it's the counselor who volunteers to die. Larry tries to peek over the side of the boat to look at some fish, but loses his balance and falls into the water. Billy jumps in after him to save him, but Tommy and Chris don't know how to work the boat and end up floating away into the horizon. Despite a painful leg cramp, Billy manages to drag Larry to shore, saving his life. Larry seems grateful, but this hasn't changed anything. Billy hasn't gained an ally in Larry. The counselor continues to remain mum on whatever's going on. And when they get back to camp, Uncle Al doesn't seem to care about the lost kids, just that they're missing a really expensive canoe. Then, Uncle Al, brandishing a rifle again, calls for a special hike. He takes the boys to the outskirts of the camp and starts handing out rifles from a duffel bag. Remember when this series was about cat witches cursing bottles of Nickelodeon gack? Well, now it's gone straight up Hunger Games territory. It turns out Dawn and Dory made a run for it from the girls' camp, and now the boy campers are going to hunt them. Uncle Al insists these are just tranquilizer guns, but Billy has no way to confirm that. And even if it's true, tranquilizer guns aren't safe. They still fire needles with the force of a paintball gun. What if you hit one of the girls in the eye? Also, and I realize this detail won't be relevant in like a second, but we haven't developed a tranquilizer drug that can be consistently used to knock out a person, just certain animals. If the drug is too weak, it won't work, and if it's too strong, it'll kill them. Which is why police and military don't typically use tranquilizers as a non-lethal weapon. Considering Uncle Al is hunting down 60-pound 11-year-old girls, there's a better chance of the drug being too strong instead of too weak. And besides, he's probably lying and these are real bullets anyway. Well, Billy won't have any of this. It's time for him to take a stand. I took a deep breath and held it. Then I screamed as loudly as I could. I won't do it! Without completely realizing what I was doing, I raised the rifle to my shoulder and aimed the barrel at Uncle Al's chest. "You're gonna be sorry," Uncle Al growled in a low voice. He tore off his sunglasses and heaved them into the woods. Then he narrowed his eyes furiously at me. "Drop the rifle, Billy. I'm gonna make you sorry." "No," I told him, standing my ground. "You're not. Camp is over. You're not gonna do anything." My legs trembled so hard I could barely stand. But I wasn't gonna go hunting Dawn and Dory. I wasn't gonna do anything else, Uncle Al said. Ever. "Give me the rifle, Billy," he said in his low, menacing voice. He reached out a hand toward my gun. "Hand it over, boy." "No," I cried. "Hand it over now," he ordered, his eyes narrowed, burning into mine. "Now." "No," I cried. He blinked once, twice, then he leapt at me. I took a step back with the rifle aimed at Uncle Al and pulled the trigger. The rifle emitted a soft pop. Uncle Al tossed his head back and laughed. He let his rifle drop to the ground at his feet. "Hey," I cried out, confused. I kept the rifle aimed at his chest. "Congratulations, Billy," Uncle Al said, grinning warmly at me. "You passed." Billy is obviously confused, but people start coming out of the woods, clapping and congratulating Billy on a job well done. Dawn, Dory, Mike, Colin, Jay, Roger, Tommy, Chris, all there, all perfectly fine and unharmed. Congratulations! And then Billy's parents show up, and they're so happy. "Congratulations, Billy! Congratulations!"
Congratulations! 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 Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations! Thank you all.
So, the twist. Everything in this book has been a test, a simulation to see how Billy would react to certain situations, how well he took orders, how well he disobeyed bad orders, how brave he was. It seems like Billy's explorer scientist parents want to take their child with them on their next trip, but the only way the government running the trip would allow it is if Billy took this test unknowingly. And just where are Billy and his parents going? "Where?" I asked my parents. "Where are you taking me?" "It's a very strange planet called Earth," Dad replied, glancing at Mom. "It's very far from here, but it could be exciting. The inhabitants there are weird and unpredictable, and no one has ever studied them." Laughing, I stepped between my mom and Dad and put my arms around them. "Earth sounds pretty weird, but it could never be as dangerous or exciting as Camp Nightmoon," I exclaimed. "We'll see," Mom replied quietly. "We'll see." "Oh, they were aliens the whole time? Say what?" So this is definitely one of the most massive twists in the series thus far, one that completely recontextualized the entire book from page 1 twice over. First in revealing it was all a government simulation, and then in revealing this doesn't take place on Earth to begin with. But massive doesn't mean good. Thankfully, it's also pretty good, a twist that contributes to the book thematically and enhances the characters. Billy is a breath of fresh air as far as Goosebumps protagonists go. He's not super deep, but he's also not a total brat. He's smart and aware of his situation. He's brave, and he actually cares about other people. He risks his well-being on multiple occasions, in getting the snakes out of the cabin, in making plans with Dawn and Dory, and jumping into the river to save Larry. Even in situations where he was powerless to do anything, he still cares about the well-being of other people. There's a comparison to be made with Lucy from The Girl Who Cried Monster, the last book we covered, which also has the twist that our main character is not actually human. Lucy's motivations are completely selfish. She wanted to prove herself right and receive a reward, and in doing so got a poor innocent man brutally murdered. Billy kept putting other people before himself, which resulted in reward, even though he didn't do it for reward. The fact that it was ultimately a simulation doesn't matter. As long as Billy wasn't privy to that, his actions are real. But what ultimately was the point of the simulation? Well, that brings up what I think the point of the book is, namely complacency and power. In my review of Stay Out of the Basement, I discussed how the source of its horror stemmed from the bond of trust between child and parent, and how breaking that trust can result in anxiety and plant-based metaphors of repressed homosexuality. Welcome to Camp Nightmare's horror comes from the bond of trust between people and society, how we as individuals assume the power systems we subscribe to have our best interests in heart, be it government, school, or, in this case, summer camp, and how very easy it is for that not to be the case. With these systems, we have rules that make sense. We're fine with stop signs and not kicking babies and forbidden cabins, but a lot of times agreeing to these terms allow power systems to enforce more unreasonable rules that are mostly just in their own self-interest and not the interest of the people abiding by them. Camp Nightmoon has uncaring leadership, poor infrastructure, no health care to speak of, and it ends with its citizens drafted to take arms against helpless individuals because they have the gall to cross the border in an attempt to escape their own awful camp state. I don't know, guys, I just think maybe it hits a little close to home. The fact that this is a government simulation of a bad government does muddy the metaphor a bit, but what's undeniable is that the book ultimately says that when a system of power tries to harm people, the correct response is to shoot its leaders in the goddamn chest. Welcome to Camp Nightmare is an anarchist text, and I love it for that. If you're not entirely sold, then we have the whole, these are aliens and this was preparation for a mission to Earth, which effectively means this camp simulation is what this alien government thinks Earth is like, which isn't exactly a huge endorsement. Camp Nightmoon is a mocking parody of Us. God damn, Arlstein got real here. A major part of these videos have been me basically rewriting the book from the ground up to demonstrate its faults, but I don't think I need to do that here. Oh, I can nitpick it. I can nitpick the hell out of it. What was the deal with the bus driver and his scary mask? Was that part of the simulation, or was he just being a dick? What were the tiny werewolves about? Were they actual local wildlife in this alien world, or part of the simulation? What was the point of Larry hitting Colin in the head with a ball? Was it just for the general threatening ambiance, or was Billy supposed to do something there? Why do these aliens have names like Billy and Mike and Larry? Since the twist is that all these characters are actually aliens, you kind of want to make sure you have all the details vague enough to both obscure that fact and not contradict it. They do avoid Earth pop culture and city names and such, and I can buy that words like cabin and canoe are just conveniences of translation, but one character does get compared to a bulldog, a breed of an animal not native to this planet, and then one night they have pizza for dinner. What do you aliens know about pizza? Also, we never get a picture of what these guys actually look like. I get that they're bipedal and they have hair and a mouth, but one moment of I stared at my parents with all 4 of my eyes would have gone a long way in selling the ending. Even if they're just Star Trek aliens where they're basically people with bumpy foreheads, mention the bumpy foreheads. Don't leave us hanging. These feel like first draft issues, stuff that would have been hammered out if Scholastics wasn't pumping these out so fast. But really, none of that stuff bothers me all that much, because the book's foundation is so solid and satisfying. The characters are likable, for once. The tension actually feels real, and the book feels like it actually has something to say. The car might have a bad paint job, but that doesn't change the fact that it's otherwise a really good car. I wasn't expecting to like this book as much as I did, but now it's competing with The Haunted School as my favorite Goosebumps book thus far. The Haunted School has more unsettling imagery, but this book has a lot more going under the hood. I give Welcome to Camp Nightmare a back scratcher out of 10.